5 years ago, a pregnant woman was cast out of her own husband's home. Her mother-in-law was unyielding, and her husband merely watched in silence as his wife sobbed on the landing. Years passed, and fate intervened. When she arrived to inspect the house, acquired at auction due to debt, her sallow-faced mother-in-law appeared at the threshold. "It's you, Olya," and the ex-husband rushed to embrace me with a joyful grin. "My dear, you've saved us." Greetings, dear listeners. It's a pleasure to welcome you to my channel. I present a new, captivating story. Enjoy listening. Olya stepped out of the taxi and paused before the familiar residence. The gray 3-story mansion, with its peeling plaster, looked far more desolate than it had 5 years prior. Back then, it had seemed like a fortress, an impregnable stronghold from which she'd been unceremoniously ejected like a stray dog. Now, it was simply an aging structure with cracked walls and a leaning fence. "Wait here for about 20 minutes, she requested of the driver, handing him a 5,000 ruble note. "I'll call if anything comes up." The driver, a middle-aged man with intelligent eyes, nodded without even inquiring why. It was evident from Olya's expression that everything was clear. She retrieved a folder of documents from her bag. Inside lay papers from the arbitration court, the bankruptcy decree of Kirill Leonidovich Trubachov, and the certificate of ownership for this very house. It now belonged to her, purchased for a pittance at a bankruptcy auction for a mere 3 million rubles. A house in the city center, once valued at a minimum of 12 million. Olya smirked. Life, at times, can be remarkably fair. Seldom, but with precision. 5 years ago, she had stood on this very porch, a suitcase in one hand and her abdomen swelling with her 4th month of pregnancy. Antonina Fyodorovna, her mother-in-law, had yelled so loudly that the entire house across the street could hear. "Get out! You have no business being here, parasitizing us. Do you think we'll support you?" And Sergei, her husband, stood aside, silent. Just stood there, his gaze fixed on the floor, uttering not a word. He didn't even attempt to defend her. His mother railed about Olya deliberately getting pregnant to latch onto their family, calling her a gold digger who deserved to be driven out, and Sergei remained silent. Olya had wept on the stairwell then, not knowing where to turn. Her parents had passed away 3 years prior. She had no close friends left in the city. They had all moved away. She called a former classmate who let her stay overnight. Afterward, Olya found a room in a dormitory, secured a job as a sales assistant in a shop, and gave birth to her daughter, alone. No one from her husband's family appeared, neither for the birth nor afterward. Olya wrote to Sergei a couple of times. Silence. She finalized the divorce by mail. She didn't ask for alimony. She simply erased them all from her life and started anew. And then something happened that rarely occurs, but does happen. She was noticed. While working as a sales assistant in a high-end tableware store, Olya once recommended a dinner service to a customer, suggested accessories, and explained how to set a table. The customer turned out to be the owner of a small event agency and offered Olya a job as a decorator. Olya accepted. A year later, she started her own business. 2 years after that, she rented an office and hired 3 employees. Decorating weddings, corporate events, and private parties, she'd found her niche, and the money started flowing. Not astronomical sums, but sufficient to rent a decent apartment, dress her daughter, and save for the future. Darina grew into a bright, beautiful girl with a determined spirit, as stubborn as her mother. Olya never told her who her father was. She simply said, "Dad went away and we're no longer on the same path." Darina didn't ask. They had their own life, and it was a good one. Then, 3 months ago, Olya was browsing bankruptcy auction websites, searching for a new office space, when she stumbled upon a familiar address. The Trubachevs' house, listed for sale at auction. The debtor, Kirill Leonidovich Trubachev. Olya froze then, coffee cup in hand. She reread the information several times. It turned out that Sergei's father had invested in some dubious construction project, taken out loans against the house as collateral, and then everything collapsed, leading to his bankruptcy. The property was seized and debts remained. The house was going under the hammer. Olya spent a sleepless night, and the next morning she submitted her application to participate in the auction. There were few competitors. The house required repairs. While the area was central, it wasn't the most prestigious. Olya won the auction, paid the money, finalized the paperwork, and now stood here before the house that had once driven her out into the street when she was pregnant. She ascended the porch and rang the doorbell. She had to wait a long time. Finally, the lock clicked, and Sergei appeared at the threshold. He had aged, grown flabby, his cheeks sagged, his eyes had become dull. In sweatpants and a faded t-shirt, he looked like a typical couch dweller. Sergei stared at her for a few seconds, blinking as if unable to focus. "Yes," he finally mumbled. "I'm here about the house," Olya said calmly. "The new owner." "Ah, yes, come in. Father's here." And then, from the depths of the house, a sharp female voice rang out. "Seryozha, who is it?" Antonina Fyodorovna appeared in the hallway, hunched, gray-haired, in a housecoat from beneath which dirty slippers protruded. She squinted, peering at the visitor. "Good day," Olya said. "I am the new owner of this house. I've come to discuss the terms of your departure." "Departure?" Antonina Fyodorovna stepped closer. "New owner." Olya silently extended the folder. Her mother-in-law snatched it, her eyes scanning the papers. Her face contorted, turned pale, her lips trembled. She raised her gaze to Olya, looked closely, and suddenly froze. "It's you, Olya." Her voice cracked into a shriek. Sergei flinched, finally recognizing his ex-wife. "Olya," he repeated dully. "You?" Olya smiled, politely, coldly. "Yes, me. It's been 5 years. Yes." Antonina Fyodorovna clutched the door jamb. She was trembling. Sergei stood with his jaw slack, his gaze shifting from his mother to his ex-wife. Wait, he stammered. "So you bought the house? Our house?" "Your former house," Olya corrected. "It's mine now, legally, according to all the documents." "But how? Where did you get the money?" Sergei still couldn't comprehend. "I earned it. I'm an entrepreneur now. Everything's legitimate, through the tax office. I have an event planning agency. Business is doing well." "Agency," he repeated, as if it were a foreign word. Antonina Fyodorovna suddenly straightened up. Her face shifted from pale to rosy. Her eyes gleamed. She stepped forward, spreading her arms. "Olenka, my dear." Her voice became syrupy, falsely affectionate. "So we've met. We were thinking of you, worrying about you. Right, Seryozha?" Sergei nodded, chiming in. Yes, of course. We wanted to find you, but we didn't know where you were. You understand, my dear." Antonina Fyodorovna continued, already pressing closer. "That it all turned out that way? Well, it was foolishness, emotions, nerves. I didn't mean any harm. We were just in a difficult situation. And then, with the child," Olya finished for her, "a freeloader who's been parasitizing your family." "That's what you said back then, Antonina Fyodorovna." Her mother-in-law faltered, but quickly recovered. "Oh, darling, that was in the heat of the moment. Don't hold a grudge. All families quarrel. The important thing is that we're back together now. You've saved us. You bought the house, so you'll help us too, won't you?" Sergei lunged to embrace Olya, but she stepped back. He froze, awkwardly lowering his arms. "My dear," Antonina Fyodorovna repeated, already grabbing Olya's hand, "you won't kick us out, will you? We're family." "Seryozha, he's your husband." "My ex-husband," Olya corrected. "We divorced 5 years ago. Or have you forgotten?" "Well, that's just a formality." Sergei grinned, revealing yellow teeth. "We can fix everything. We loved each other." Olya looked at him for a long moment, then shifted her gaze to Antonina Fyodorovna, who was clutching her hand with a pleading look. "Loved," she repeated softly. "You loved me when your mother kicked a pregnant wife onto the street." Sergei winced. "Olya, don't bring up the past. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. Mother was pressuring me. Father was shouting. I'm weak. Yes, I'm to blame. But now everything can be fixed." "Fixed," Olya echoed. Kirill Leonidovich emerged from the depths of the house, stooped, gray-haired in a crumpled shirt. He stopped, surveyed the scene, and looked at Olya. "Is this the new owner?" he asked wearily. "Not new," Antonina Fyodorovna replied. "This is Seryozha's wife, Olya. She's returned." Kirill Leonidovich frowned, peering closer, then nodded. "Ah, her. The one you kicked out. So what does she want?" "Kirill," Antonina Fyodorovna hissed. "She bought the house. Our house." Kirill Leonidovich's face remained impassive. "So she bought it legally. Are you going to evict us?" Olya looked at him with surprise, the only one in the entire family who wasn't whining or groveling. "Yes," she replied. "You have 1 month to vacate. You can take your personal belongings." "A month?" Antonina Fyodorovna shrieked. "Are you out of your mind? We have nowhere to go." "And I had somewhere to go 5 years ago." Olya raised her voice for the first time in the entire conversation. "When you threw me out onto the street with a belly. I had an apartment, parents, at least some money. But that was different." Antonina Fyodorovna waved her hands. "We're family, blood relatives." "Blood relatives," Olya smirked. "Where were you when I gave birth? When I lived in a dormitory with a newborn for the first 6 months? When I worked 12 hours a day to rent a room?" "We didn't know." Sergei tried to adopt the role of a sufferer. "You disappeared yourself. You didn't contact us. I wrote to you twice. You didn't even reply." Sergei opened his mouth, closed it, averted his gaze. "My mother forbade it," he mumbled. "Ah, so that's how it is." Antonina Fyodorovna turned to her son. "Now you're going to blame everything on your mother." Olya took out her phone and dialed. "Hello, Mikhail. Yes, I'm here. No, they refused to leave voluntarily. You can prepare the eviction documents. Excellent. I'll be waiting." She put away her phone and looked at the frozen family. "This is my lawyer. If you don't vacate the house within a month, you'll be evicted by court bailiffs. Your belongings will be put on the street, and the locks will be changed. It will be unpleasant and humiliating. I advise you to leave amicably." "How dare you!" Antonina Fyodorovna suddenly lunged forward, raising her hand. "Ungrateful!" Olya caught her wrist. Firmly, harshly, 5 years of hauling boxes of decorations had taken their toll. Antonina Fyodorovna gasped in pain. "Don't," Olya said quietly. "You humiliated me once. There won't be a second time." She released her mother-in-law, who recoiled, rubbing her arm. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "We'll sue you. We'll find a way to deal with you." "Sue away." Olya shrugged. "All the documents are in order. The house was bought legally. The auction proceeded according to bankruptcy procedures. You have no rights to this property." Kirill Leonidovich suddenly let out a hoarse laugh. "Tonya, shut up. She's right. It's our fault. We screwed everything up, and there's nothing to whine about now." "Kirill, what are you saying?" "I'm telling the truth. 5 years ago, you kicked the girl out onto the street because greed got the better of you. You thought you'd save money on her, and now she's returned and taken the last thing we had. It's fair." Olya looked at him with unexpected respect. "Where will you live?" she asked. "Are there options?" "We'll ask my brother." Kirill Leonidovich waved his hand. "We'll survive at the dacha in the Moscow region. It's not the first time. And Seryozha will come with us," his father grumbled. "Where else can he go? No job, no wife, no brains." Sergei flinched, wanting to say something, but remained silent. Olya turned towards the exit. She stopped at the threshold. I have a daughter, she said without turning back. Darina. She's 5 years old, smart, beautiful. I raised her alone without you. Daughter. Sergei lifted his head. We have a daughter. I have a daughter, Olya corrected. You have no one. She went out, closed the door behind her, and walked towards the taxi. The driver was already waiting, opening the rear door. How did it go? He asked. Normally. Olya settled into the seat. Let's go home. The taxi pulled away. Olya looked out the window at the receding house. Inside her there was no triumph, no malice, only a strange emptiness, like after a long illness when the fever subsides and only weakness remains. She took out her phone and typed a message to the nanny. I'll be back soon. Tell Darina we're going to the cinema tonight. A month later, the Trubachevs moved out, quietly, without scandal. Kirill Leonidovich indeed took his family to his brother's place in the Moscow region. Olya hired a crew of workers and began the renovations. She decided to transform the house into her agency's office with a showroom. There was plenty of space. One day, as the renovation workers were stripping old wallpaper in the living room, they found a baby pacifier and a worn plush bunny behind the radiator. Olya picked them up. The pacifier was hers. She remembered its blue rim. The bunny, too. So, when she was kicked out, she had forgotten something or simply hadn't had time to pack it, and the items had remained here for 5 years. Olya squeezed the toy in her hand, then placed it in a box. That was another life, one where she was weak and dependent. Now she was strong and free. The agency opened 3 months later. Clients, partners, and journalists attended the opening. Olya stood in the renovated hall, smiling, sipping champagne. Darina ran among the guests in a beautiful dress, laughing. Beside her was her friend, who had once let Olya stay overnight. Now she was a business partner. Everything was good, truly. 6 months later, Olya accidentally came across a post on social media. Sergei had married some girl from a neighboring village where he now lived. The wedding, judging by the photos, hadn't happened. They had simply registered their marriage. In the photograph, Sergei looked even more bloated. The bride looked tired and dissatisfied. Olya scrolled further, not lingering. She was indifferent. One cold November evening, as Olya was picking up Darina from kindergarten, she was called from the entrance. She turned and saw Antonina Fyodorovna. She looked even worse than she had 6 months prior, stooped in a cheap jacket with dull eyes. "Olya," she began quietly, "can I have a moment?" Olya nodded silently. Darina clung to her mother's leg, curiously examining the unfamiliar grandmother. This is my granddaughter." Antonina Fyodorovna looked at the girl with a kind of greedy longing. "No," Olya said clearly, "this is my daughter." Antonina Fyodorovna swallowed, paused. "I've come to ask. Seryozha is married, his wife is pregnant, and they have nowhere to live. I thought perhaps you could rent them a room in the house for a symbolic fee." "They have none," Olya interrupted her, "and don't approach us again." Olya took Darina's hand and walked away. The girl glanced back. "Mom, who is that?" "No one, darling, just a stranger." They walked through the evening city, past glowing shop windows, past hurrying people. Darina chattered about kindergarten, about friends, about the new toy she wanted for her birthday. Olya listened, smiled, and responded. Many years later, when Darina turned 16, she asked directly, "Mom, who is my father?" They were sitting in the kitchen drinking tea. Rain was falling outside. Olya looked at her daughter, a tall, beautiful, intelligent girl with a strong character and clear eyes, and realized the time had come for the truth. "His name is Sergei," she said calmly, "but he was never your father." She told the story without embellishment, simply and honestly. Darina listened in silence. When Olya finished, her daughter looked out the window for a long time, then nodded. "I understand. So I only have you, and that's enough for me." Olya hugged her tightly until it cracked, and at that moment she knew that everything, absolutely everything, had been done correctly.